In today's session, I am going to quickly go through the UPSC pattern, the exam, and I will also tell you briefly about how we in this course are going to approach for the prelims. This exam has 3 stages. Stage 1 is preliminary exam, the one wherein you have to take 2 papers. Paper 1 which will be the GS paper, general studies paper, and then some of you must have just started preparing and may not have anybody to guide you for civil services. So I want to make a distinction here. Why? Because in India, in general public, people who are not involved in UPSC preparation and all that, there is this misunderstanding that they tend to confuse GS with GK. Alright? GS is something that you can actually cover. There is a slightly defined syllabus, howsoever vaguely defined it may be, but there exists a syllabus which essentially involves concepts and related facts. On the other hand, GK also covers something like who is the president of Papua New Guinea. Like for UPSC, you don't need to know that. Alright? This will demand you to have conceptual understanding of the topics and subjects that have been mentioned. For GK, it is something which is far more open-ended and far more factual in nature. What happens that if you are, like, say, born and raised in a typical middle class family, then you know how one of your relatives come to your house and they ask you a similar kind of question, that who is the defense minister of, say, USA, and if you know the answer, the relative will say, okay, this boy seems very sharp, why don't you direct him, or why don't you motivate him to prepare for civil services? So people tend to judge people on the basis of their factual knowledge or GK knowledge from the beginning, from the early years, and then accordingly they kind of persuade students to prepare for the IAS services. But that is very different from the actual syllabus. In reality, you shall be given questions based on GS, general studies, and not the random GK. So let's take out of the picture altogether. All right. Now, this exam will decide whether you are writing the mains or not. Why? Because in prelims, there are 2 papers, paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 2 is popularly known as CSAT. This paper is qualifying in nature. So as long as you are scoring 33% marks, you are good to go. So out of 200, you just have to get somewhere around 67, 68 marks and you'll be fine. On the other hand, GS paper 1, that is the deciding factor. The syllabus for that is current events of national and international importance. Now again, it is a very open-ended statement. So everything that shows up in the newspapers, it comes in the exam, be it from any geographical phenomena, any economic issue, any political issue, science and tech development, security related issue, and so on. So everything that is happening around you becomes part of the syllabus. Current affairs. Second, history of India and Indian national movement. Here, as far as this topic is concerned, Bharat sir will make a special video for you just to tell you how to approach history for UPSC. But let me give an example here. Say in this year's prelims, there was this question which was very, very far-fetched and very vague, that most of the history teachers that I personally know of and who have been teaching for the last 10 to 15 years, they did not know the answer to. But the problem is not that you don't know the answers to such random question. The problem is that when you actually start to prepare for these questions, there are going to be certain questions that you will just have to leave gracefully. For all practical purpose, I have said it earlier as well, in prelims, you do not get 100 questions. You must convince yourself that there are going to be 90 questions and there are going to be 10 questions that I am going to leave at the preparation stage. I will not prepare for such questions. For example, say in history, in any case, the syllabus is so wide: ancient history, medieval history, modern history, and then art and culture. Say tomorrow they ask one question which is given in one random book, and the next year you start preparing that book as well. So how many questions will you chase like that? So you don't have to chase questions as such. Study the standard books. Repeatedly read our notes, the notes that we shall provide you in this module. Read the standard books, read our notes, make single source notes, that we will guide you how to make those. Make single source notes and just keep on reading them again and again and again and again. Now we will make sure in this module that we are covering as many relevant sources as possible, and you would have read 1 standard or 2 standard books on your own through us only. So you should have cultivated your faith in your own notes by then. So if there is going to be any question outside that domain, outside that single source notes that you have made, both in terms of facts as well as your understanding, you should have enough confidence that if you don't know the answer to that question, most serious students wouldn't. Okay, so you don't have to feel discouraged. My point here is that whatever we will teach you and we will guide you to read on your own, this is where we want you to put your foot down and be like, that's it, I'm not going to go crazy about this particular topic anymore. And then you will move on to the next topic and next topic. You must know enough about enough number of topics instead of knowing a lot about few number of topics. Keep that thing in mind, because UPSC has been forming a very balanced paper with questions from history, geography, economics, polity, environment, science and tech. So if you know enough about all the modules, you shall be fine. Alright, if you have any questions, like I said, we are more than accessible. Then the next part is India and World Geography. In this module again, you just have to read the basic NCERTs. You have to have the important atlas point on your tips, and whatever Yash sir and Bharat sir will teach here, that should be more than sufficient. But keep one thing in mind, it's very important that you uncover whatever you cover with us. What I mean to say here is that make sure that you contemplate upon it. You think about whatever issues we are discussing here, so that you have good conceptual understanding. UPSC has been consistently incentivizing those who go for conceptual understanding rather than superficial reading. No matter how many times you have read a particular book, unless you have gotten good understanding of all the concepts, I don't think you would be safe in the exam. So as important as it is to read the basic things, to do the cramming work, it is equally important that you must have conceptual understanding. The next module is going to be Indian polity, wherein you will cover constitution, political system, panchayati raj and all that. I shall be taking those classes, and like I said earlier, we will make sure that all the important books are covered there with all the conceptual understanding, and we will do enough number of MCQs in the classes, as well as we will write ample amount of answers for GS2, because this syllabus also has your overlapping in the mains. So we will make sure that we do a decent amount of job here. Even this year there were almost 20 questions from this year if you include IR and all that. So it happens to be a very important topic. Now next is your economy. Raghav sir will take economy classes. His classes are going to be more than sufficient for you, but he will also guide you. He will also recommend you a book that you can read for reference. For newspaper, as far as your current issues are concerned, we will take classes, but in addition to that, you must read newspaper. Now some of you have just started preparation, so when you look at the newspaper, it will look as if it is written in Hebrew. You will not understand, you may not understand most of the things. For example, if you have never read anything about economy, repo rate, reverse repo rate, bad banks, this and that will not make any sense to you. But don't get discouraged. Just keep on reading. The least that you can do when you're just starting off is to read the front page of the newspaper, editorials, economy page, and world news, world page. If you are reading the Hindu or the Indian Express, these are the pages that you must follow. Okay, this much. Then the next topic is going to be the basic environment, ecology, biodiversity and climate change. Very, very important topic. From climate change in agriculture, UPSC asks good 15 to 20 questions. So when you are reading newspaper, keep an eye on any development which is related to this one. As far as your own studies is concerned, like your own effort is concerned, NCERTs is something that you can start with. if you want to read, if you have extra time, say if you have history going on here in your module and you have extra time and you want to read something else on your own, you can read, say, geography's NCERT, or even economy's NCERT, and so on. And last but not the least, general science. Now, although here in your syllabus they have written general science, but if you look at the exams, if you look at the past year papers, they have shifted the focus from general science to science and technology. What is the difference? The basic difference, that instead of asking you what is RBC, red blood cell, what is WBC, instead of asking you laws of motion in physics, instead of asking you basic chemical phenomena, they may ask you a question or two from this part too, but they ask you a question about latest scientific development, that what is augmented reality, what is artificial intelligence, and the facts related to that one. They will give you a few options and they will ask you which of these is possible through 3D printing, which of that is possible through artificial intelligence, or if there is any new mission launched by NASA or ISRO and any of the space agencies, then UPSC tends to write a few missions, and in front of that UPSC will write the agency, or you may have to match the right options, and so on and so on. So the focus essentially should be on science and tech. So this will wind up your paper 1. Sounds a lot, or rather intimidating. Don't worry, we will make sure that you enjoy the whole learning process. It is going to be a very enriching experience, trust me. 6 months down the line, you will feel drastic change in your personality. You will feel drastic change in the way you perceive all the issues going around, because you will, your mind automatically will start processing an issue through its economic dimension, political dimension, sociological dimension, environmental dimension, and so on. So you would really like the journey. Now coming to paper 2, GS2. Like I said, this is not this is only a qualifying exam now, so the marks do not get counted in the final merit list. So you just have to have a reasonable amount of English knowledge, basic comprehension, and you should be able to solve basic mathematics as well as basic reasoning questions, and you shall be fine. So this is going to be your preliminary exam.